Well, hello. Welcome to God's Answers for Anxiety and Depression. I'm Pastor Ray Barnett. Glad you could be with me here today, and would like to wish you a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what time you're watching this broadcast. Another beautiful day. Weather has been exceptional this summer, as I've been mentioning so frequently. And that's because every morning that I get up, it's just a beautiful day. This is August the 18th. But it really feels like fall. And for me, that is my favorite season. I know it is for a lot of people. We have the right combination of sunshine and warm days, but not super hot. Humidity drops off. Just great weather. And we've been very blessed to have God be so kind to us to give us this good weather. All right, let's just jump right in and start with today's lesson, which is a continuation of what I began yesterday on how muscles can educate the brain. And of course, this is specifically related to the issue of anxiety and or depression, and by extension, all mental health disorders. So yesterday, I was sharing an example of touching a hot stove. I mean, all of us learn this, if not from a hot stove, then from something else. Sooner or later, ordinarily from painful experience, but not always. We learned it from pleasurable experiences as well, of how in the illustration of the stove, a hot range, for whatever reason, someone reaches out to touch it. A signal is sent back up to the brain via the nervous system, and the brain receives the message and sends back down via the nervous system that this is painful, withdraw the hand, and so we do. And what is not always appreciated, as I shared yesterday, and that's an opinion, is the part that muscles play. And how muscles, which when we talk about the body, exceptions would be the sport of bodybuilding and even powerlifting and just sports in general. When we talk about the body, it seems to me that the muscles play a very almost casual part in a discussion of physiology and how things work. You have, opinions vary by the anatomists and experts in the field, but general opinion is 640 to 650 muscles in the body. Some estimates are as high as 800 muscles in the body. But either way, we'll use the figure 650 muscles in the body. It's quite a lot when you think about it, right? Quite a lot. 205 bones, in case you're interested. And here you have the skeletal system, the bones, as a frame. And then hanging on that frame, you have these rather humble parts of the human body called muscles. Now, I'm trying to establish, even if someone wanted to debate the point, I'm trying to establish the part of how muscles, or rather the part muscles play in educating the brain, again via this nervous system, back and forth all throughout the body. And Yesterday I was sharing with you, and I was trying to concentrate this time more on depression, that just commanding your muscles through an act of the will to get up and start moving. The simplest things would be, well, bathing and hygiene. Remember how many people who are suffering from a depression, one of the indications is just a not caring about how you present yourself, how you look. Some, of course, go further and don't bathe maybe for days or more. And this is when it's due to depression. Others, just throw any clothes on. I mean, I've read of people who stay in the house that don't even put any clothes on at all. Anyway, so you get the idea of this lethargy, and if you're suffering from depression, you certainly know by experience, to some degree, what I'm talking about. You may get an invitation to go out, and you have no interest. Well, let's for a moment just take a look at why there's no interest in going out with a friend or friends, or going to some kind of get-together, a fellowship, or whatever, party. Well, it's the suffering, right? That's should be evident. But I mention it because it's not always evident. Just as I have told you about tension in the body, you can have it for so long that you're not likely to recognize the tension until the body starts to relax. To me, it's a little bit like vacation, which this year many of us are not going to get because of all the chaos that's going on. I don't anticipate that this summer I'm going to get a vacation. But for me, when I go on vacation, it usually takes, if I go on 2 weeks vacation, and it'll take me a full week just to get to that place where I'm relaxed, that my responsibilities, which I carry with me all the time, things on my mind and so forth, it'll take me a full week to get into this other arena where I start to feel relaxed. Many times, which is a bonus, on vacation, I remember one year, last year, the year before, I think it was the year before, I couldn't believe how much I was sleeping. I would get up at my usual time, which is fairly early, and get a cup of coffee or something and go right back to bed again. Hang around for a while, and then get some lunch. And there was days I went back to bed again. Well, I wasn't depressed. It was just that I didn't realize just how tired I was. Now, there's something to be said about pushing yourself through in life because, there's duties and you have to do it. But when it's overdone, well, you suffer the consequences. So when it comes to depression, regardless of the cause of it, if you're going to overcome it, and again, this applies to nervous symptoms as well, you're going to have to give these muscles a command. Start to do the chore. Go wash your face. Go take a shower. Obviously, I do shave. I do trim my beard and shave under the neck and my back of my neck. But for a man, you're just going to go and make sure that you take that shave, brush your teeth, things that we would do ordinarily during a bout of depression. You're so listless, and the lethargy that you feel, remember that this is a feeling of fatigue. It's not real fatigue. We could say, and I think that would be accurate, it's a fatigue of the mind or of the brain. And this is precisely where the muscles come in and educate the brain. The way the muscles have just reached out, touched the stove, and then all this transference goes on between the nervous system and the brain and the nervous system. It was the muscles that did the reaching. and the muscles that did the retracting. And keeping in mind what I've told you several times and brought up again yesterday, that science in the area of neurology has seen now this amazing discovery in the last few decades of the muscles and other areas, other systems of the body actually having, I'll say, cerebral capacities that are identical to the brain contained up here in the in your head. And this is one application of this discovery, is that science is learning that we actually have more control over the body than previously thought. So now let's take those muscles, and with the knowledge that we have, that science has brought to us and neurology has brought to us, we now understand that the muscles have a capacity to actually think. And with that in mind, it's the muscles that have an ability to go back to central management, which is actually obviously much, well, not only much larger in size, but also in its capacities. But the muscles do have an ability to educate central management when it is in a defeatist state. That's what depression is. It is a extreme form of discouragement, of defeat, or a feeling of defeat, feeling of discouragement, frustration. We should add sorrow and other things. Okay, so the brain is in a state of defeatism. That, let's say, for instance, you had an average life of being, fairly active and going to functions and events with family and friends and going to work and what have you. Now, some of that is gone, perhaps much of that is gone, and in some cases, all of it is gone. And you don't want to live in that. You don't want to stay there. Well, this is how we begin to overcome it. We use the muscles, and we use the muscles to educate the brain. For example, let's say, for the sake of an illustration, you always had a habit of going out for a walk. And now, because of the depression, and you were going to say, well, I'm so tired all the time. But I gave you the illustration yesterday, and a way of thinking about it. Let's say, for instance, soldiers, when they're on a very long march, carrying a pack that could weigh up to 80 pounds, 40 pounds, 60, 80, whatever. And they go on a very long march. Let's make it 25 miles. When they come back, they're legitimately tired. No need to have to explain why. The body has done an exceptional amount of work, and it actually needs the rest. It needs to be in the rack. It needs to be sleeping. It needs nourishment. With depression, and if you are, suffering from depression and have been for some time, as a matter of fact, I'm thinking of a friend of mine right now who is suffering from depression, but I don't think that he knows it. And you sleep till noon. You get up and mope around with a few things. If someone's in your home that you can talk to, you may not want to make conversation. You don't want to talk. Or you find yourself very irritable when conversation is struck up. Innocent comments, by the way, for the nervous patient, the nervous person, people like yourself suffering from anxiety or depression, also suffer an inordinate amount of irritation because everything is highly sensitized, okay? Mainly the nervous system. But the muscles have feelings of fatigue. Let me give you a story, personal experience, about 30 years ago. During a period, now what many people do not know about ministry, and I'm talking about real ministry, when you truly have a call from God and you are respondent to that call, it has the ability to totally drain you. It also has the ability to ruin your health. And then we have terms we use not only in ministry but with people in general of burnout. A burnout really is a form of depression. And again, it could be for good reason, right? You've been working so hard using the mind and maybe the body as well, and you're just tired and you're in need of rest. Burnout, when it becomes extreme, brings you into a depression. And this happened to me 30 years ago. I was a young man. I had little children all over the place, running around the house. Growing up, lots of things and activities, of course, as father and mother, my wife. You have to discipline and pick up your room, and I told you not to do that. And we had, you know what it's like to have a family. Plus, I had a growing church, a growing ministry, and it was just on the go all the time. I didn't even realize that I was starting to burn out. Didn't know it. I didn't notice it. And then one day I found myself on the side of my bed, just totally exhausted. And at that time I was clueless. Okay, so I ran for over 30 years as part of my routine of working out. And I will go out for my daily run and this time I was using the local high school track because it had no hills. I mentioned to you I always made my workouts very intense, but this was a season where I was just happy I got in the car and drove to the high school track. When I was on the track, and I would warm up my muscles by walking before I started to actually jog, I'm telling you, it felt like I had a 400-pound piano on my back. It was hard to describe. Those of you having depression or having had depression will know what I'm talking about. My body felt so heavy. Now, what prevented me from stopping walking, sitting down, getting back in the car, going home, it's no use, there's something really wrong with me, is that I had already had experience prior to that. So I knew what this was, and in keeping with what I'm trying to communicate to you, I knew it was very important for me to move those muscles. Again, I didn't have goals of accomplishing anything extraordinary, just finishing that, whatever it was, 2 miles or so, jog. Sometimes I would jog and just go back to walking around the track. And most of my runs over the years, by the way, were 6, 9, 13 miles. Now I was just doing 2. But this makes the point. I was giving a command to my muscles that no matter how you feel, no matter how lethargic, fatigued, heavy, and that's really the word that I would use, I just felt heavy. Like there was something very heavy weighing on my back, just pulling me down, pushing me down. I knew enough to command the muscles, you just keep on walking. Was it easy? No, not at all. But I did it. And holding to the illustration of just going out for a walk, but remember, it applies to anything: doing the dishes, cleaning the house, going out shopping. You're going to feel lethargy, fatigue, heaviness. You're going to many times be doing things rather mechanically and without any enthusiasm at all, without any sense of even accomplishment. But it is important that you command the muscles to go through those actions while we are working on the dynamics of the brain and of the mind, retraining it. The muscles are now helping in that training, in that re-education, if you will. The muscles are now helping the brain, this brain, right? Because this brain's all over the body. This brain to learn that no matter how heavy you feel, fatigued you feel, unmotivated you feel, it can be accomplished. The logic of it is this: assuming you're not a soldier that's just been on a 25-mile hump, which in that case it's not depression, it's real fatigue. But assuming that and just leaving that aside, what you're feeling, you have to understand, is a feeling of fatigue. And the way to overcome that is to let the muscles, or make the muscles move and let them re-educate the brain, proving to central management that the problem of defeatism up here, which is sending these signals down to the body, namely fatigue and heaviness and all of that, can be overcome. And once we begin there, even though you may have a small, it's a small start, going out and walking for a block, 3 blocks. This is a very important step. With anxiety as well as depression, I just concentrated today on depression because sometimes we don't concentrate. I don't concentrate enough on depression. But it works either way. Oddly enough, how the muscles educate the brain with anxiety, we've gone through these lessons, is the stillness, the sitting still, the refusing to touch something that you touch out of nervousness. Either way, we're using muscles to educate the brain that this can be overcome, that this can be done. And these little principles, these, I don't want to call them secrets, because they're not really secrets. These principles go a long, long way in helping you to rise up out of that mire of depression and or habitual anxiety. Let me give you a quick example for anxiety. This is a telephone. Well, it's not a telephone, but let's say it is. And you're calling and you're anxious, and everybody can pick up on the fact that you're anxious. And it's not unusual. I've had it in ministry. Someone who calls me, I may have been either the first or the 5th or 6th or 12th person they've called with the same story. Every time you repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, you're getting more anxious, more tension. So you're working yourself up. The stillness, which is one technique. But there's the phone, and though you've made 1,000 phone calls every time you've had a panic attack in the past, this time you're saying, I refuse to touch that phone. See, this is the muscles now in a different capacity. With depression, we're saying use those muscles. I'm saying use those muscles. Go take that walk, do the housework, clean yourself up. Force yourself to do it, and it won't be easy. And then here we're telling the muscles, don't touch that phone. Don't write those couple dozen emails, because you're only feeding the anxiety and feeding the defeatism of the brain, feeding the defeatism of your situation. So today and yesterday I'm talking about using muscles to educate or even re-educate the brain. Now, the critical part for you is the practice. This information, as I've told you many times or several times, is not going to be of much help unless you do it. Remember, just again, you can understand this. Everybody can understand this. You don't accomplish anything in theory. You accomplish anything in life by practicing, by doing it. So I want to pray for you that you will be able to take this lesson and all of them really, and do them and begin the hard work that it's going to take to bring you up and out for total freedom from your depressions, from your anxieties, and other mental health disorders. So let me pray for you. And so, Father, once again I pray for my friends who are watching and learning in this course, these lessons. Help them now to practice, as difficult as it may be, and they may not have anybody to encourage them. I don't know. You encourage them, God, and show them and prove yourself to them. And prove that these principles actually work, and free them from their oppressions, their depressions, from their anxieties, and from all their troubles. And I pray this, Father, in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. All right, that's enough for today. I always say at the end of a broadcast here, I'm sincerely hoping that these are actually helping you. But keep in mind what I told you today, and I've told you before. You have to practice. You have to, wherever you are right now, and if there's time still left in the day, again, depending on what time you're watching this broadcast, you have to practice. Go and do that thing that you need to do. Go and do that thing that you would actually want to do, wish you could do, or stop wishing and just go do it. And with anxiety, same principle in reverse. Stop touching that. Stop the muscles around the mouth from talking about your situation. Okay. If you like these lessons, you want to stay with me on them, and they're going to be a long time, lots of little installments, then please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell or button also, so you are alerted to when these broadcasts and these lessons are on the YouTube site, or also they're on Facebook as well. Okay, so Lord willing, again, I'll be with you here tomorrow, and hope that you are in the process of overcoming all of your depressions and anxieties. In Jesus' name, amen. See you tomorrow.